like when I say we moved so fast, like we moved. It's like we knew we didn't have a lot of time. We moved so fast, like we moved so fast, like.
R.I.P. PnB. He was in the hood and it got fatal for him. So
no, the crazy part about it is I was at Roscoe's when it happened. So
you was in there when the shit happened.
Yo, I was in there when it happened. You can't change your life because what in the dark must come to the light, sweetheart. It don't matter what you did. It could be 20 years from now.
The setup had started the minute he walked into the restaurant. He's wearing $500,000 in jewelry. There's someone there who spots him, does a fist bump. We see this on the video. He contacts someone else, a father and son team.
Now, most of you are probably aware that PnB Rock's tragic passing at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles shook the entire hip-hop world back in 2022. But now, 3 years later, the case is suddenly back in the spotlight, and it's getting darker than ever. After staying completely silent since the heartbreaking day, PnB Rock's girlfriend Stephanie is finally speaking up, and y'all, the things she's saying, it's like reopening a wound in the industry that they tried to cover up. Because what is going on? Big U just got hit with fresh RICO conspiracy charges, and now eyes are locked in on him for way more than what's on paper. And the craziest part, Luce Cannon had already been on the internet spilling everything, allegedly placing himself and Big U right there at the scene when PnB was shot. Y'all, there's a whole lot to unpack here, so let's get right to it. Now, to give you guys some context, let's rewind to what really happened that day PnB lost his life. It was September 12, 2022. PnB and his girlfriend Stephanie had pulled up to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in South LA. And let's be real, nobody expected what was about to go down. Now, Roscoe's can be a dangerous place, but they were just vibing, doing regular couple stuff. But then out of the nowhere, chaos. A masked man walked into the restaurant and tried to rob PnB right there in front of everybody. And Stephanie said it was like a nightmare. She watched the love of her life stand up and protect her, literally throwing her under the table so she wouldn't get hit.
What occurred was the victim, along with a female witness, were in this area eating at a restaurant when they were approached by at least one suspect who brandished a firearm and demanded property from the victim.
But not only that, this wasn't just a robbery gone wrong. The shooter didn't just take the jewelry and leave. No, PnB was shot multiple times right there in front of Stephanie and everyone in the restaurant. And according to her emotional Instagram post, it was PnB's last act of love that saved her life. She said, "My man saved my life, throwing me under that table. I'm not supposed to be here, but because of him, I am." Authorities eventually arrested a man named Freddie Lee Trone and his teenage son. The story at the time was that Trone had sent his 17-year-old son into the restaurant to do the job, rob PnB and take his jewelry, and then that teen ended up being the one who pulled the trigger. Prosecutors made it sound like this was all a planned father-son setup.
And it was those two that were responsible for the death of PnB. And the whole setup was just to steal all his jewelry.
Well, Trone ended up being found guilty in August 2024. First-degree murder, robbery, conspiracy, the whole thing. And he was sentenced to 31 years to life. Boom, done, right? Not so fast though. Even though the courts tied it all up with the bow, the streets were telling a different story. Because while Trone and his son might have been the ones carrying it out, it's who may have orchestrated the whole thing that's got people talking. And that's where Big U and Luce Cannon come into the picture. Now, for those of you who don't know, Big U is no small name in LA. He's been tied to a whole lot of street politics, and there's been long-standing rumors about him having influence behind the scenes, allegedly controlling who's allowed in the city and who's gonna be dealt with if they don't.
That's a mistake that everybody makes when it comes down to checking in. Is either you checking in to get set up and get robbed, or you checking in to get killed.
But that brings us to the infamous check-in drama. If you're an artist, especially a rapper, and you're flying into LA, you're expecting to check in with a certain local figure. It's like an unspoken rule. Not doing it though can put a large target on your back. And PnB, he didn't check in. He said it himself in interviews that he didn't believe in doing all that. He didn't move with security and he wasn't about to let fear run his life. He even said his girl didn't feel safe wearing her ring out in public, and he compared the streets of LA to GTA Grand Theft Auto. And y'all, honestly, that's how wild this is all feeling. And what's even crazier, the exact same energy he warned about came back to take his life.
You don't want, unless you're gonna move around with security, you don't want to have to do that.
Well, yeah,
every time you go out.
100%.
Feel me? Like that should be, bro.
People are targets out here, and especially
niggas try me out here a couple times. You feel me? Like I ain't gonna lie, shit don't never work. You feel me? I be too on point. Like I'm from the same What y'all trying to do?
That not checking in made him look like easy prey, or worse, disrespectful. And there's been loud talk in the streets and online that Big U and Luce Cannon were pissed about it. And then boom, a video drops that changes everything. In early 2024, Luce Cannon popped up on a podcast and started talking real reckless. He basically implied that both he and Big U were at the scene when PnB got hit. Like, what? Who does that? And why was y'all there? Who places themselves at the scene of the crime like it's just a casual story? In the same podcast interview, Luce Cannon made other claims about Big U. He said Big U was selling firearms to gangs, recording serial numbers, and snitching to the police. He even went as far as saying Big U had a contract with law enforcement to report crimes, basically calling him a snitch and a straight informant.
He do scumbag stuff. He sick the police on Nipsey. He act like, oh, it was just a sting operation.
But not only this, Luce's own twin brother came out shortly after and tried to walk back everything. On another podcast, Jermaine Williams, Luce's twin, said his brother was lying, making stuff up for clout, and that a lot of what he said never actually happened. But here's the thing, even if Luce was lying or stretching the truth, why would he put himself and Big U at the scene of an incident? That's not no joke. That's not something that you say for unless you're trying to throw shade, start beef, or dodge blame. And then it gets even deeper because Big U, who had already denied being involved in anything related to PnB's case, was suddenly named in a RICO indictment. The feds came in with a whole list of criminal activities tied to him: extortion, violence, organized crime, and yes, even murder. Now, while PnB Rock's name wasn't specifically mentioned in the documents, the timing was too perfect to ignore. The feds came knocking just months after Luce's interview, and suddenly all these dots started connecting, like people online pulling receipts, connecting clips, rewatching interviews, and saying, wait a minute. But then comes the voice we hadn't heard until now, Stephanie, PnB Rock's girlfriend, the one who was right there in the restaurant next to him when everything happened. Now, for over 2 years, this woman held in so much pain, so much trauma, and now with all these rumors, new charges, and Luce's messy podcast confession, she couldn't stay quiet no more. Her Instagram post hit hard, not just because it was emotional, but because it gave us a whole new look into what went down behind the scenes after PnB was killed. And to make things even worse, Stephanie revealed that she was treated like a suspect, not a victim. Like, after she watched her man die in front of her, they dragged her out of the restaurant, blocked her from getting into the ambulance, wouldn't let her go to the hospital, and then interrogate her all night long. All while she was still in shock, still hoping he was alive. Even some people still tried to blame Stephanie, saying that she was the reason he got hit because she posted her location on Instagram. But let's be real for a millisecond. Even if that post played a role, it doesn't explain the deeper issue.
First, wasn't there kind of like an implication that maybe she was involved in some way on this?
The implication was she had posted a picture from Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles where this happened.
So the location, she's saying where we are.
Where we are, and she posts a picture of the food, the chicken and the waffles, not of them, not that she's with him.
On top of all that, she didn't even find out PnB had died until hours later. She was literally the last person to be told. She said she was clinging to hope, thinking he made it, only to have been ripped away from her from being held in a room with no answers. And for what? She even mentioned how they took her phone like she was the one being investigated. Y'all, a whole traumatized partner. It's beyond disrespectful and straight up chilling. But not only that, Stephanie also talked about the kind of man that PnB was becoming before he died. She said he was locked in, focused on family, on being a better man, and deep into his spiritual journey. She described him as loyal, patient, and full of love. The last day they spent together, she told him, "I know you my husband. I know you my soulmate." And now he's gone just like that. The situation, just to be clear, is way more than just a robbery, way more than a random street crime. With everything Luce Cannon's been saying, the timing of Big U's arrest, and now Stephanie's voice finally being added to the mix, people are starting to look at this whole thing way differently. And to make even worse, we gotta talk about something that's been circling the streets for years now: Big U's alleged connection to Nipsey Hussle's death. Yes, y'all, his name has been thrown around a lot in that conversation. Now, of course, the official story says that Eric Holder pulled the trigger. He's the one that's in prison. But ask anybody who's really plugged in and they'll tell you the drama between Nipsey and Big U, it was way deeper than what the media showed. And is it just me, or does this whole thing with PnB Rock feel a little too similar? See, with Nipsey, things started to go left after he allegedly disrespected Big U. And then boom, not long after, Nipsey was gone. It was fast, it was messy, and the people who saw what went down behind the scenes, they've been whispering ever since. Now flip that to PnB Rock and tell me this don't sound familiar. PnB comes to LA, doesn't check in, he's vibing, doing his own thing, then boom, he gets set up. His location gets out, his jewelry gets stolen. And just like that, the story is that it's just a robbery gone wrong. Allegedly, the idea was that after the robbery, PnB would be told there was a way to get his jewelry back, and who better to contact than Big U, someone known to have a real street connection. The plan? Make PnB think it could go all smooth, but for a price, of course. You know how it goes. We know who did it. We can get your stuff back. Classic play. But then things didn't go according to plan. Somewhere along the way, it went left, real left. Some people believe that PnB might have reached for a weapon during the robbery, or maybe the robbers just panicked. Either way, instead of clean and snatch and return scam, it turned deadly, and the streets haven't stopped buzzing since.
No, give it up and then check in with the real people. So we're going to find the jury, and we're going to get it, because we know all the pawn shops, we know all the people that's going to melt it down and everything like that. So as soon as it comes on their table, we got it.
And to add fuel to this messy fire, Luce Cannon has been non-stop exposing everything ever since his fallout with Big U. The two used to be tight, but that all crumbled, and now Luce is out here calling him Big Useless, dragging his name through the dirt and spilling tea left and right.
He will literally, right, do something, right? He gets caught up or whatever, supposedly.
Y'all, the rap community is watching it all unfold in real time, and some people are still in denial. Others are like, we been knew something wasn't right. And now that Stephanie's speaking up, Luce Cannon's talking wild, and Big U is facing federal charges, this is no longer just conspiracy talk. This is real life. And what's scary, it's making rappers feel even more unsafe, because if people this close to the game are getting taken out for not checking in, what does that say about up-and-coming artists? With everything that's coming out, from Luce Cannon to exposing Big Useless, to Stephanie finally breaking her silence, and now the feds coming after Big U with that heavy RICO charge, it's clear that this story is not done, not even close to being done. And this situation just opened a whole new can of worms about how deep the politics run in LA. I mean, in this LA rap scene. We're talking about a system that's allegedly built on intimidation, setups, and people being kept in check, literally. And if these new claims are true, then PnB Rock wasn't just a target. He was a warning. So now I gotta ask y'all, do you think that PnB Rock was really set up by the same people who were supposed to protect him? Is it connected to Nipsey Hussle? And was Luce Cannon really speaking facts this time, or was he just spinning narratives to take things back on Big U? And with all this coming out, do you think the truth about Big U and his alleged connections to both Nipsey and PnB will ever fully come to light? Drop your thoughts and comments down below, because this is the one that's got everybody talking. And don't forget to smash that like button if you made it this far, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because trust me, this next chapter of this story is about to get even messier.